system where you put together a show of works that is somewhat politically resistant. At the same time, you codify it and, in a way, package it, and you kind of take the kind of oomph out of the work. That is a fact. It happens, and it's a problem. The joke. The alternative would be embraced by the conservative position on interventionist art. This is what I've heard numerous curators say. It is not that I don't like political art. It is just that I don't want to compromise it by bringing it into the ivory tower. Oh, that's so nice of you. Parens, instead I will continue to show Elizabeth Peyton and works on metaphysics of time, such as Olafur Eliasson and Bill Viola, as more appropriate and thus perversely radical. So the radical gesture is to maintain the status quo for fear of compromising political art. So be careful when think carefully about your position on political art not entering the institution, because you'll have strange allies. Similarly, it is not a joke that addressing issues of diversity is complex, fraught with imbalances of power, and can produce patronizing, if not outright offensive pandering works by privileged artists and institutions. I did a project with this artist, Paul Chan, in New Orleans, called Waiting for Godot in New Orleans, and I got a lot of critiques about the ways in which we were basically working with community to produce a problematic relationship and that we were exploiting folks. And I thought, isn't this always the critique when you deal with questions of diversity and imbalances of power that are inherent in the political structure we live in? The answer is to not do it at all. So, the conservative reaction is to thus not offend anyone by retaining a status quo programming schedule without addressing issues of race, class, and gender. So that you get contemporary art museums that actually don't address these things at all, and again, perversely, are being radical by not offending any interest group that they don't already serve. Not a joke, conferences can allow us to reflect on the current political conditions facing us today and consider methods for social change, which is what we can do here. We can actually think about making the world a better place. The joke. Conferences can also use discourse as an alibi to simply operate in large social capital generating machines where we all desperately attempt to further our chances at tenure, promotion, and various other neoliberal job pursuits. Right? That is the de facto role of conferences, where we just all pretend that we're talking to each other, but we're hoping we can put this on our resume and other faculty see us and think we're relevant still. Not a joke. Neoliberalism has drastically transformed our relationship to culture as an ongoing land of capital opportunity to the point where we hardly recognize our own actions. This lesson radically alters our relationship to artistic production, culture, and ourselves. We are alien to our inner careerists. The joke. I am hoping to publish this text in a book for Autonomy Press that I hope garners wide distribution and sales. All right, so that's my joke, not joke. I hope, I know it was brief, but I think it addresses a lot of the critical questions that come up, not just about political art, but also the motivations that people have. And I think one of the strategies I advise in terms of thinking about things is not in terms of their artistic content, but how can we highlight our own positions within power and our agendas, not as a way of pointing fingers, but to be clear about what our motivations are in terms of cultural work and what we're getting out of it and how we're trying to get people involved. And I think that means being clear about what you're making in terms of money out of projects, what you're doing in terms of your job as a laborer in this world, and also how you're working with others. I guess the final thing is, as much as this seems cynical, clearly the goal is to do something radical and be positive about social change and not give up. Because that's the pointless thing. It's really about making the world better and fighting, which is obvious around us all the time, is the corruption of power and capital. Thanks.
I'm excited to be here and a bit nervous as well. And some of the things in Nato's presentation I found particularly relevant. And I'm actually really glad that this is Larry's last day at CCA, because teaching there, he's sort of almost not my boss anymore. So I can fuck up and it doesn't matter. Unless I want to go work at Berkeley. But my plan for this talk is I'm basically going to show a little bit of some projects I've done, and I'm going to run through them quickly, and then hopefully address a few topics that were in that one-pager that Larry read. And I mean, I usually don't think of my art in terms of interventions or interruptions. I mean, I guess I just don't use that terminology. I tend to shy away from labels and categorizing. Maybe it's fear or that would subject me to certain questions. But instead, and I think my work tends to grow out of particular contexts that I'm in, situations that I'm around, problems that I may be having, sometimes personal, sometimes professional. It was sort of funny when I was walking here from Porter College. I kind of saw the black of my phone in my shirt pocket. I was a little nervous, and I was thinking, if I could just get a phone call during this thing, and then I could just talk on the phone the whole time, and that'd be, but then I sort of realized, like, what would the point of that be? So, other than maybe an intervention. And in my own sort of work, there's a lot of questioning of myself, of what is the point of some of these ideas, and thankfully a lot of them don't get done. So going to go through a few of these images and pretty quickly. So these are, I did a project here where I just purchased signs from panhandlers and then reframed them, and then worked with graphic designers to redesign them and redistributed them. And so I was just seeing a lot of panhandling when I was living in Seattle, and sort of wanted to raise that issue, perhaps in using some different aesthetics. This is a project I did with Sophie Cal, where my girlfriend at the time broke up with me, and I requested, I sent a letter to Sophie requesting to grieve in her bed in Paris, and then we had sort of a correspondence that involved her bed. This is when I was at CCA. I was, you know, you have a lot of interactions with the graduate department staff, but I had no idea what they did or if they did anything else. And of course, they all do. They're all artists. So I put together a show of their work in the beginning of the semester, and these were just some promotional baseball cards. This is Ted Purvis's. This was my project for a show called Emerge, which is a juried exhibition for people who are, I believe, 40 and under. And one of my friends submitted and was accepted, but they realized she was a little older, so I was also accepted. So I put together a juried exhibition within the exhibition called 40 and Up, where I showed the work of artists who are, you know, older than 40. So not sort of wedding the concept of emerging in your career to chronology. This is, I just recently finished this project at Arizona State University, where I was invited to do a kind of a residency and exhibition where I got this large gallery, but it was open from the day I showed up. So this is how what was there when I showed up, and then I was meant to make work while the public sort of came in, and I think there was a sense that I would be engaging with them and interacting with them, and it was quite challenging. I wasn't sure what to do, and no one had any idea that they should come in here because I was just in there on a desk. Shit, that's out of place. Hold that thought. This is the thing Larry talked about. I don't think I have to say much about it, but it's this project Service Works where I give grants to other artists based upon my income as a waiter, and it came about as a response to me not getting a bunch of grants and just wanting to do something on my own. It's sort of odd to me that I ended up putting myself in a position where I then give grants but also don't give grants to a lot of people. So my first response to being in that gallery at ASU was to have a Gmail chat discussion with my wife about how I could decorate a part of the gallery so people might think that there was a reason to come in there. So that's what she told me to do, all that stuff. And of course, I'm pretty obedient. I did it. And then on the sides is our Gmail chat as posters. So while I was having that Gmail chat, an elderly woman came into the gallery and quickly identified herself as a tourist from Canada who had been told that there was an artist in residence. So she wanted to